All right, we're back with another wrestling talk discussion. This is a rational wrestling mark. So when I look back at WrestleMania 40, Sami Zayn beating Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship, yes, in the moment it was cool to see Sami get another WrestleMania moment, right? The match was great. I thought both guys told a decent story. Sami Zayn played the underdog very well, like he always. But a month in his Intercontinental title reign, I'm kind of looking back like maybe Sami Zayn was not the right guy to beat Gunther, and I'm gonna tell you why. The reason why I think Sami Zayn was not the right guy was because Sami Zayn, he's better suited to be in the main event scene of being the underdog. The feud that he had with Drew McIntyre, right, was going somewhere. And originally plans for WrestleMania were originally going to be Sami Zayn and Drew McIntyre. The whole point was to build Sami Zayn up as this fighting underdog. And he said last October that he wants to win the World Heavyweight Championship. So that should be the story. That should be the journey that his character should be on. He couldn't beat Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre had cheated to beat Sami. And I feel like Sami Zayn is best suited in the main event scene. Because I can tell you right now his popularity will dwindle. Because him toiling away in the mid card, it doesn't feel the same when he has to fight for that top spot in the main event scene. Because Sami Zayn has already been Intercontinental Champion. He has already proven himself in the mid card. Why did his character needed to prove so much why he belonged in the mid card to be the Intercontinental Champion? Sami Zayn and Gunther was a great match, but the story going into it was not convincing enough. It just wasn't, because Sami Zayn, his journey should be for the World Heavyweight Championship, not a mid card belt that he already won 3 times already. So that's why his reign as Intercontinental Champion feels kind of flat, because it has zero impact. Versus if he had won the World Heavyweight Champion with a very meaningful, long build up as a fighting underdog, it would have had more impact. You get what I'm saying? Sami Zayn did not need to beat Gunther. There are two other guys that had to beat Gunther, and that's Chad Gable and that's Sheamus. Chad Gable had a convincing story. He had a legit reason to pursue Gunther's Intercontinental title. And it just wasn't about the championship, it was about him defending his family's honor. Gunther made Chad Gable's daughter cry in their last match. And it was embarrassing for Chad Gable. Chad Gable, to me, should have won that gauntlet, and he's the one that should have ended Gunther's reign. You can say whatever you want about Chad Gable's size, but at the end of the day, the guy can wrestle. The guy can tell a story. A lot of people say Chad Gable is a modern day Kurt Angle. I mean, there's similarities to Kurt Angle, but he's definitely not the next Kurt Angle. Chad Gable is Chad Gable. The guy has been damaged goods in the past because of how he was booked by Vince. But This story with Chad Gable and Gunther, it goes back to August, September. Chad Gable, before Sami Zayn beat him, was actually the first guy to beat Gunther. It was by countout, though. But nonetheless, he still got a victory over Gunther by countout. Realistically speaking, with his amateur wrestling style, he could have realistically, right, beaten Gunther. He would have been believable enough to beat Gunther. And he had a strong story, a strong reason to beat Gunther. And I feel like that was a waste. See, Sami Zayn, I'm not saying Sami Zayn was the wrong choice, but he could have been used in a different way for WrestleMania, in a more impactful way. Him chasing the World Heavyweight Championship, there's a better story to be told with that than him just going after the Intercontinental Champion. Because fans already saw Sami Zayn become Intercontinental Champion before he beat Gunther. So I'm just waiting for them to take the belt off of Sami Zayn, because Chad Gable, in my opinion, is the perfect guy to hold that belt. It's a shame that we had to sacrifice Chad Gable's babyface status, because he definitely made a good babyface. To sacrifice that for Sami Zayn's second WrestleMania moment. He already main evented WrestleMania last year when he beat the Usos. Why did he need another WrestleMania moment this year? Instead, you could have had him lose to further build up the adversity for Sami Zayn's character. And he should be chasing the World Heavyweight Champion, because that just makes more sense. Right? He said it way back last year in October, I want to be the World Heavyweight Champion. And he said, my journey starts here. And that's when Drew McIntyre basically said that he is not championship material. He's not good enough to be World Heavyweight Champion. Sami Zayn is better used when he is chasing. He'll be better used when he's the challenger. He's chasing either Drew McIntyre or Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship. See, Sami Zayn will have more momentum on his side if he were to go up against Judgment Day to get to the World Heavyweight title. That's a better story for Sami Zayn, because it's him against all of Judgment Day. Right? He has a better story to be told with Drew McIntyre. Right? Gunther and Sami Zayn just did not fit. I'm not saying the match sucked. It was a great match. But from a storyline perspective, it just didn't fit for WrestleMania. Sami Zayn and Gunther were just not a perfect fit. Chad Gable and Gunther were a perfect fit to tell a better story for WrestleMania. And the second guy is Sheamus. Had Sheamus been healthy before WrestleMania, it would have definitely been him to beat Gunther, because, you know, their clash at the Castle match was legendary. And the fans really wanted Sheamus to beat Gunther. I mean, that's what really got Sheamus over. That match got Sheamus over. He never won the Intercontinental Champion, so there's a story to be told there as well. And not just that, Sheamus and Gunther, they have similar wrestling styles. So you knew they would have put on a banger at WrestleMania if Sheamus was healthy. If Vince was still booking the shows, we would have gotten Brock Lesnar and Gunther. Best believe that. Sheamus, Chad Gable, Sami Zayn, they would have never been considered an option. Vince would have been like, nope, it's going to be Brock and Gunther. That's my match. And I believe Vince would have booked Gunther the way he's been booked for the past 2 years, as strong as ever, to face Brock at WrestleMania. Now, would Vince have Brock beat Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship? I mean, yeah, but at the same time, Brock doesn't need a mid-card belt. That means Gunther would have to lose the IC belt. Now, before WrestleMania, of course. So when I look at the options of who could have beaten Gunther, Sami Zayn is over, but let's be real. He's not more over than Jey Uso. Same thing with Chad Gable. He's not more over than Jey Uso. Now, Chad Gable may have a strong story, right? He would have had a stronger story going into WrestleMania, but in terms of popularity, in terms of, you know, you know, the top merch seller in the company, like in terms of ranking, he's not above Jey Uso. Jey Uso got to be at least 4 or 3 when it comes to, being the top merch seller. He has to be behind Cody, around LA Knight. Like he's got to be at least 3rd or 4th. I got to go look at who is selling the most merch, like who's ranked. I know Jay has to be high up though. But Jey Uso is arguably the most over guy, most over babyface. So him alone would have made sense to be the one to beat Gunther. Because knowing the match that we got with Jey Uso and Jimmy, it was not a good match. It just wasn't. They had the worst match on the show. They told a decent story, but the match quality was not good. So to have Jay beat Gunther would have actually made sense because the fans would have digged it. The fans were very behind Jay. So you give your most over babyface the Intercontinental Championship. Right? As, for him being at the very top of being a merch seller in the company, right? He would have been the perfect guy to beat Gunther. If, to get to Brock and Gunther one-on-one because, if we're booking things or we're talking about things based off Vince on how he would have booked the show, it would have been Gunther and Brock. But the Intercontinental title would not been on the line. I think if Vince was still in charge, he would have took the belt off of Gunther and gave it to Jey Uso instead of Sami. I can definitely see that happening for sure. But nonetheless, Sami Zayn does not need the Intercontinental Champion. His character is above it. And I think you're starting to see that firsthand. That the more he keeps the Intercontinental Champion, the less over he will be. Because if you just have him beat Chad Gable again and have him beat everybody in the mid card, the fans are going to lose interest. The biggest selling point with Sami Zayn is him losing and him being the underdog. You can't be the underdog if you win all the time. Right? And If you have him win all the time, then he's just going to lose the crowd support. His momentum will actually go down. So I think the sooner we have Sami Zayn lose to Chad Gable and go and pursue the World Heavyweight Championship, the better it will be for his character going forward. Because he's better when he is chasing the title. He's better at his best when he is losing and he has to face adversity and the odds being stacked against him. That's the magic of Sami Zayn. It's not him winning all the time. So, yes, he was the wrong choice to beat Gunther. It should have been either Sheamus or Chad Gable. But since Sheamus was not around, it should have been Chad Gable.